We had an action-packed week in Batman. We got the debut of Batman the Night. We've got Tini Howard jumping in on Catwoman. We've got Shadows the Bat in full effect, and we also got a Nightwing issue to talk about. And here with me is the DC Comics aficionado himself, the Batman guru, Josh, back from vacation. How you doing?
Back from vacation? Yeah, absolutely. I was in Birmingham, Alabama, but I was there for work. I got sent 2 hours away and then to Birmingham. But yes, I am back. I'm ready to talk some Batman, and I have opinions. So,
and don't forget to check out his website, popeyeculture.com, where he covers all the comic books and entertainment spectrum, and you'll definitely want to check that out. So there were some very interesting things. We have this Batman the Night #1, Chip Zdarsky, Carmine de something or other. I'm not even going to attempt to say this last name.
Oh, wait, I'm going to give it a shot. I think it's Gia Domenico, maybe.
Gia Domenico.
Sure. Gia Domenico. We'll just say Carmine.
Carmine.
Technically,
this is a pretty good comic book, Josh. There's some things to like about it, but there's nothing really new here. It's just a rehashing of young Bruce and taking up his mission, kind of fighting it out and stuff, except he's a little bit more angry than I remembered in the past, and Alfred dislikes him a little bit more. But otherwise, I don't know why this comic book exists.
Yeah, we kind of touched on this before. I don't think there is a need for it. I'm hoping that in the future installments we'll get more into him actually getting trained by some of these people, and I think I might enjoy that a little bit more. But yeah, this was fine. Bruce is kind of angry. Granted, he's in his teens right now, where we're seeing him, so I understand the angsty nature. Alfred does seem a little more angry. There's a scene at the very end where Alfred talks about how he's failed Bruce and Bruce's parents. So I kind of understand where Alfred's mindset is. It just seemed a little too melodramatic, a little too CW for my take, at least that response. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm not sure this is needed.
What do you think about the inclusion of Hugo Strange? I like the villain Hugo Strange, probably used a little bit too much as of late, but he's one of the cool villains that we don't see, or we haven't seen a ton over the years. He's been in the spotlight a little bit more lately. Like, he's given Bruce hypnotherapy as a kid and trying to talk him through his anger issues. Seemed weird. I imagine he's going to play a larger part in the story as it goes along, as maybe he's trying to influence Bruce.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. I'm of the notion, I kind of liked seeing him at first, and then as I started seeing their sessions, it made me feel like, okay, if you look at Hugo Strange and Bruce at the timeline of Batman Prey, if we pretend like that's continuity, which everything's apparently continuity, it just makes me feel like, okay, it'd be obvious that Strange would know Bruce is Batman, and that's the one thing that bothered me.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like I said, it's a good comic book. It looks pretty good. There's nothing wrong with it, and I would recommend reading it if you're interested in the early days of Batman, but it's already been covered, and I think it's probably been done better. Obviously, we haven't seen the full story here yet, and I do think Chip Zdarsky maybe is the best writer at the big two that's getting a lot of work right now. But
agreed.
I just feel like he's being wasted here. He should be doing something more groundbreaking or exploring something new about the character.
I completely agree with that statement. And again, I don't want it to sound like this is terrible, because we keep saying it. It's not bad. It's just it's not necessary.
Yeah. So let's move on to something that I would say is bad. I certainly am not recommending Catwoman 39, the very first issue, the debut of Tini Howard on Catwoman with Nico Leone on art. I'm going to be honest with you, Josh. You're going to have to carry most of the weight on this one. I didn't make it through the entire comic book. I was thoroughly bored. There is so much internal thought bubbles and dialogue, internal narration going on here. And then when there's not internal narration, it's just a lot of talking. There are so many talking heads in this comic book. It is boring as shit.
Yeah, there's not much original here either. There's a lot of dialogue and a lot of unnecessary dialogue. Like you'll turn pages and you'll see just bubbles of text. And so much of it is just padding, and it's not needed. You could have just condensed it down. But story-wise, they put Selena back in like Gotham proper, which I'm fine with. The art, by the way, I thought was solid. Like there's a lot of really good just like layouts in here.
So really good splash pages if you like
really
Catwoman.
Good splash pages, a decent look, and Jordi Belair on colors like just delivers here for me. So art wise, yeah, it's a solid book. Story wise, not so much. But Selina's back in Gotham proper. She's back to doing her thing. They established 4 new heads of like the crime underworld. They introduced them. It feels cliche because it's different people from different like countries basically, and they're kind of feeling like the Irish mob, and here's the Italian mob, and here's the Yakuza. One of the things that I thought was kind of interesting is they did reintroduce Aiko, who was in Genevieve Valentine's run, and I thought was an interesting character during that run. But my excitement pretty much stopped with her introduction here, mainly because there's just not much happening. You have the
sexual
crime
tension between Aiko and Selina.
I mean, sure, it's fine. Like I expected it, so maybe that's why I wasn't like, oh, sexual tension here. And I'm sure they'll play into it more. We'll see if it goes anywhere. There just wasn't enough narrative itself to sink your teeth into. They also introduced a new.
I called him Boy Catwoman. That's what I called him. I assumed at first it was Aiko themselves because she kept referring to the character as he. So I'm assuming it is a woman and it's Aiko, but that character's trying to, I guess, lure Selina in with a really rare cat.
Yeah, it was weird. And the character design kind of looks like Ghostmaker because he's got the whole half face mask thing. I don't know. He's apparently a part of some guild of thieves and respects Selina, and it didn't really make much sense why he's here.
That's the point where I closed the book and I said,
"Yeah,
I've had enough."
Yeah, and what you don't realize is that opening scene when they're in the strip bar, that opening scene, it's actually later. Like all this stuff happens before that happens in real time. So it cuts back to them being in the strip bar, and then a fight breaks out, and they're shooting people, and then the other strippers jump in and help Selina, and then you find out that it's not 4 crime families, it's actually 5 crime families because Black Mask is one of the crime families.
What?
It's not like we've been here before. So for me, it felt very like something that was just retread. Like I honestly did not care. And the writing was not great either. So
it was awful writing. It was,
dude.
If you're not a good writer, it's not a good policy to just stuff the comic book full of as many words as you possibly can, so people can really believe without a shadow of a doubt, maybe if it's the first time they read a Tini Howard comic, and know for certain that this comic writer is not good.
Yeah, I'm not someone who's very versed in Tini Howard's work, but for me, like the dialogue itself was not good, and just the train of thought and the way the story flowed was terrible.
So not only did I check out early on the comic book, I could not finish it, but I will be checking out of Catwoman. Period. I have no reason to come back to this comic book. I can't take it. I've read enough Tini Howard doing the X-Men stuff. I don't know if maybe if something permanent or interesting happens that is beyond the normal level of cringe or bad writing of Tini Howard, we'll revisit it then. But I'm sorry, Josh, I cannot go down this path with you anymore.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. I can't either. We're good.
So that brings us up to Detective Comics 1049. First issue of the Shadows of the Bat, the first official issue, was pretty good. I thought last week was absolute filler. Nothing happens. And then this one, stuff happens, but I was thoroughly confused. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they're paying off here that they never set up. Specifically, I know you're a big fan of Huntress.
Yeah.
Correct?
Right.
And apparently, Batwoman is on a rescue mission to pull Huntress out of Arkham Tower. I don't know why she's there. I don't know why they feel like they need her to pull her out. They show up and she's like, nah, I don't want to leave. I feel so calm.
Yeah. So as far as Huntress is concerned, it looks like there was a line in there about like, okay, let me rewind. Kate impersonates to be a Dr. Frau or something like that.
Yes.
And manages to get a job in Arkham Tower. And she does this so they can investigate and see what's going on. Towards the end of the issue, you find out that Huntress is in there as a patient, which we already kind of knew based on the first issue. And And it seemed like she was in there to do the same thing, just kind of try to keep an eye on things. And that was the easiest and fastest way to get someone in there. So she ran with it. It looks like she's potentially been taking these medications because they keep having like offhanded conversations about the medications, what they do, how people are when they're on them. So maybe that's why she is how she is. But the structure of this story for me is with the biggest problem. Like you had the first issue, which started setting up the opening, and then they jump all the way to the end where the criminals take over. So we know that's coming. But it kind of ruins the momentum because now we know it's coming, and I'm like, just get to this point now. Like I don't care about anything else. Anything else that would have built tension throughout the process isn't going to build tension because we already know how it ends.
And they keep mentioning these different players that are in there that have been part of like the Joker crew and this crew and that crew that are all part of, I guess, the maintenance team in Arkham Tower. That apparently there's some type of drug operation where they're using the drugs, maybe that they're giving the patients and smuggling them out and selling them. But they don't tie that in context with like Gotham. We're like, we're seeing this drug on the streets. What is it doing to people? Why is it a threat? Why does this need to be stopped? We just know that it's happening. You would think that Oracle, who's the eyes on all of Gotham, would have this locked down and would be able to explain to the reader why it's important.
Right now there is not much of a foundation to this story or the plots in it at all, and that's what's really hurting it. It seems like us discussing what we think might be going on, it seems like there could be an okay story here, but we're having to do too much discussions to try to figure out, is this what it is? Is this not what it is? And they should have just set up the story properly. There's so many aspects that they're touching on, and it's just like we're getting like a quarter of a plot thread there. And we're not getting the foundations that we need of that plot thread to get us, I guess, engaged. So I was not a fan of it. I mean, I thought this issue was better than last week's, but I'm not a fan overall.
I agree with you. I think it was a lot better because I thought last week's was like garbage.
Last week's was terrible. Yeah.
Like there was no, I said, you can skip this issue and just go to the next one and you'll be fine. And I stand by that. The art, once again, is fantastic. Ivan Rice is really carrying his weight and then some.
Absolutely.
Trying to make this story pop. There's just not much there yet.
Honestly, this is one of the situations where the backup's better than the main story. So take that for what it is. And the backup's just okay.
Matthew Rosenberg story. Ooh.
Yeah. The first back, oh God, I can't talk. The backup in the first issue was excellent. Since then, it's just been all right, but it's still better than the main story.
Yep, that's a problem. So I wouldn't recommend this one either. I just doesn't feel like there's a lot of meat on the bone of this Arkham Tower story to begin with.
No.
And we're 3 issues fully in, but we also had that 0 issue where the annual that kind of led into this. The foundation should be set. We should be moving somewhere.
It should be
at this point, and they forgot to do that.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about Nightwing 88.
All right.
I love Nightwing. You love
Nightwing. Yeah.
I'm still loving the Bruno Redondo art.
Absolutely.
Tom Taylor has been up and down. On this list, it's not as down as he has been in some issues. But this isn't. I mean, you're gonna have to talk me into recommending this thing. I'm close, but I can't do it. There's some fan service in here. I guess we'll hit that first. But it doesn't make any sense. You basically have Dick Grayson, one of the great superheroes in all of DC Comics. Everyone knows who he is. He's been protecting Gotham and Bloodhaven. And all of a sudden, he can't protect himself. And the Teen Titans and Flash have to come in and save him.
Yeah, look, so for me, I started off reading this issue and I was enjoying it at first. And I was happy to get back to the main plot. I was happy to see like we're getting back to Blockbuster, kind of letting that narrative take off again after having to tie into Fear State. So I was excited, and then the Titans showed up. And look, I love the Titans. I'm happy when they're there. We got a great example of how to do this in Robin and Batman, and then we had an example of how not to do this here in Nightwing. But the Titans show up. It kind of makes it as if Dick is not capable of taking care of himself. They have to swoop in and save the day. And then in the process, they completely undermine the big bad. So they completely undermine Blockbuster and make him kind of just look like a chump. And now I'm looking at it going, okay, well, you're a chump. Like, you lost whatever momentum you had as like a threat. So again, not terrible, but I can't recommend the book.
Obviously they're diving right back into it's time for Dick Grayson to give away his billions, and I guess that's why Blockbuster wants to assassinate him. He's brought in an assassin team. They're not very, very effective either. They get taken out in moments by the whole team. And like, there's like one weird moment where Flash is like, "Do you want me to carry you, or you want to piggyback?"
And it's like, okay, so I actually laughed at that, like, because go ahead.
But thinking about it, I was like, why don't you just put him down and go get the guy that was trying to shoot him? You're the fastest man alive. You could be there right now.
Yes, I think the mindset was, because there was a little throwaway line in there about there's definitely other
shooters.
Yeah, there's definitely other people here to get you, other assassins. So he was like, we have to get Dick Grayson out of here. But then he's like, so do you want me to carry you, or do you want to piggyback? And I did laugh because I thought it was funny. And if anyone's wondering, he went piggyback. I didn't
shows
mind
up
that.
in Mr. Terrific's there. He's like,
yeah, that was weird. I was like, all right,
new costume.
So, we made you a new costume that looks exactly the same, but it'll fit under your suit. Which, by the way, Nightwing has already worn his costume under his clothes within the same continuity, so it makes no sense. But it doesn't. I will go back to the two assassins, the two shooters. Both of them take shots. They fire shots, and they make a point to have the loud, the big, bold bang, and nobody reacts. Nobody reacts. Like, everyone in the audience, the crowd, they're just like standing there, just normal day, everything's fine. Nobody has a reaction.
Flash just grabs Dick Grayson, probably the only person in the audience that can take care of himself. He just leaves all the kids there to get shot.
But like, even the crowd doesn't scream or run or anything. They just keep standing there like, all right, hey, someone's shooting at us.
Moved all the people that could take care of themselves.
Weird. It was so weird. Like, to me, that was bad. And then the Titans just didn't fit. I felt like he tried to force the Titans in for some fan service.
Yeah, it was fan service, but it wasn't good fan service. It did not work in this case. It wasn't a Titans level moment.
Mm-mm.
And I don't feel like Dick Grayson needs the Titans to take on Blockbuster anyway. He's a big bad, but
how many times are we going to have Dick Grayson have people helping him for him to have the resolution of like, oh, I'm not alone. Like, this is not a Dick Grayson problem. He knows he's not Batman. He knows he's not alone. Like, we don't need this. Too many people are trying to do this story. We don't need it. It's done. Go ahead.
The scene at the very end, we finally see Heartless come back.
Yes.
And one of the assassins who has not been very effective, he's like, does anybody like care about your heart? And he's got like this enormous screwdriver that apparently removes hearts.
Yeah, that's how he removes them. It's a little like gun thing.
Remember when Joker in the Batman '89 pulls that big ass gun out and it's ridiculously long, and it's like that, but I guess it's got a little device on the end that just is a heart remover.
But it's bigger. It almost looks like a telescope. He just like blink. Yeah, I thought it looked weird. I do like the dynamic that they're setting up, because they do establish that Heartless is opposed to Blockbuster. So you kind of have a three-way battle going on, and I think that always makes things more interesting. But yeah, overall, it was just all right. I can't recommend the issue.
I'm not recommending this.
I'm holding out hope that it'll get back on track and be good, but it's like every time we have a good issue, we have an issue.
The next week is the Nightwing Superman crossover.
Oh, see,
for next week.
Yeah, like, that's right.
Yeah. So you'll have to read an issue of Superman Son of Kal-El to understand what's going on. This was a bad week in Batman. We've seen worse weeks in Batman.
We have seen worse weeks. We have.
But Batman the Night, not really necessary, but I would recommend it because technically it's good. The art's fine. If you're interested in this part of Dick's life, which is certainly Dick's life, Bruce's life, which has certainly been explored, in full in the past, you can go check it out. But Catwoman, I could not get through. I am checking out. Full stop. Nope.
Yeah.
I ain't doing that.
I don't blame you.
Detective Comics needs to get Shadows of the Bat going somewhere, and then Nightwing just. If you're a fan of Batman and you haven't heard the news that DC Comics are killing off the entire Justice League, I did an entire video about it. Let's just say I'm not exactly happy about the idea of DC killing off the Justice League, including Superman and Batman. You definitely want to check this one out. I was spitting hot fire.